hot off the press. New fight announcement. Israel, the future Adesanya, Anderson, the past Silva.
Yeah.
And you know where I'm trying to go with that right now.
Yeah,
is that this is a mismatch on paper and going to be on my TV set that I'm about to watch in February in Australia. What are your thoughts on the announcement?
I look at a fight like this and I say to myself, why on earth is this being made right now? It's different. It's funny because Adesanya himself came out when the fight was announced that this is almost like a Michael Jordan versus a LeBron James type of matchup. And that analogy is a good one, but picture that game right now. LeBron James fighting, not Michael Jordan of yesteryear.
Right.
Michael Jordan, it's not a very competitive fight.
Right.
And seeing how Anderson has looked up to this point in his last fights, it just makes me wonder, like, what's happening with one of my favorite fighters of all time?
Yep.
Are they just throwing him out to anyone that wants to fight him? Like, it just doesn't seem like smart game planning.
It's a great subliminal message that Israel said too, because it's like a backhanded compliment. On one hand, you're Anderson Silva and you look in the mirror, you're like, yeah, I was Michael Jordan, I was the best in the sport. But at the end of the year, you're like, shit, I'm 43 and I'm not relevant and I haven't finished a fight in 6 years.
Honestly.
And now I'm getting fed to this young guy that not many mainstream fans know, and he's gonna build his name off me potentially. But I've said it time and time again. The one thing I love about MMA, no matter what happens, you can call it violent, you can call it a physical chess match, but you have to agree that it's a consensual sport. So Anderson put his hand up and said, okay, I'll take that fight. You think you can beat me? I'll take that beating on the day, or I'll get that knockout on the day and prove you white belts wrong. I personally don't think he's gonna come close. I think it gets finished in the first round. I think Israel makes it look very easy. And I think a lot of people will get a little bit sad because they'll realize that Anderson was amazing and he was a legend and he is a legend, but he's not the same 30-year-old Anderson Silva.
And let's not sleep on Anderson as well. Let's give him his due respect.
Okay.
Even right now in the UFC, Anderson Silva is still probably one of the best stand-up fighters. The issue here is not that he's not a great stand-up fighter anymore.
Right.
It's the speed, right, that Adesanya brings up. We saw in the Brunson fight where we were watching, I guess, Anderson Silva fight. He still has good timing.
Yes.
The speed is not there, and all of a sudden now people who he would have basically been able to kind of pick apart, he doesn't have that same ability to do so. So that's where it gets dangerous for him. If he's somehow able to get this fight, like win the fight, I mean, what it does for his stock is tremendous. He's basically bound for another title shot.
Is it tremendous? Because for me, it would be.
Yeah.
For me, that's talking all this trash and saying that Izzy's going to win that fight in the first round easily, it's a big win. But if you're talking to somebody on the street or somebody, at your day-to-day job, they may not necessarily care that much and say, yeah, Anderson won over the weekend, but I don't know who he fought. Probably a no-name fighter, which doesn't give Adesanya the credit. So I think this match is tailor-made for Adesanya. But I think it's a normal strategy for the UFC, and I think we're seeing that over and over again. I mean, Tuivasa is fighting JDS.
Yeah.
Tyson Pedro is fighting Shogun.
Yeah.
And so forth and so on, to the point where you're like, okay, we know one of the fighters because they're legends. The other one, who is that person? I mean, Justin Willis is fighting Mark Hunt. Yeah. And 90% of people are going to say, who's Justin Willis? Exactly. And I think he's a top 5 heavyweight fighter.
He is. No, not even you think. He is, right? So it's a tactic that they've used, and to their credit, it has worked, right? You can take an aging star who's maybe not in his prime that people know well, put him up against a young up-and-comer, and all of a sudden you build their name off the back of that aging fighter. We've seen it. It works. I know why they're doing it. I just wish that they wouldn't do it with some of the legends of the sport, and that's what we have when we're talking about an Anderson Silva, period.
Still the GOAT in the UFC.
100%.
In my opinion, in your opinion.
100%.
But unfortunately, his time has come. We'll see. That fight's not until 2019, so we got time and time to debate.
Well, the one thing that I will say, though, is that Adesanya has never been, granted, he's on the way up. Granted, when it comes to kickboxing, he's one of the best in the world. Yeah. But he hasn't been on this stage. Yeah, okay. I think you, myself, probably everyone in the MMA media is going to pick Adesanya over. Yes. Over Anderson Silva in this fight. And so, with that being the case, a lot of pressure is on this fighter who's kind of on the biggest stage he's ever been on. Yeah. And we know that pressure bursts pipes. That's probably the most compelling storyline in that fight. Yeah. Can he still deliver with all the lights, camera, and action, I guess, on him?
I'm excited for that one. That's going to be a sweet co-main. Yeah. He doesn't want to be the backup to Gastelum versus Whitaker. But, I mean, if somebody pulls out, you could still potentially slate him in there if there's enough time. So, it's pretty compelling in February. We'll see what happens. But, we'll be watching.
Of course.
What do you white belts think? Is that a good matchup to make? Or would you have preferred Anderson fight somebody his age? Maybe Tito Ortiz, per chance?
Who's picking that fight, too? Like, who am I cheering for now?
I know it's tough. I got Anderson.